There you go. Gotcha.
All right, welcome everybody. Tonight we are here with Mary and Carol and Janice to read stories from the second book, Voices of Magic 2. We're so excited. Thank you, Mary, for all your diligence on getting us all together and getting that done. We certainly wouldn't have even attempted without you, so thank you. A little bit about Mary. She's been studying metaphysics for most of her life. Her first beloved teacher was Seth, channeled by Jane Roberts, and she eventually found her way to Lazarus, channeled by Jack Purcell. Mary has enjoyed a traditional career in market research and product development in both consumer products and retail banking industries. This experience served her well when she turned her attention to creating the self-publishing community anthologies, The Voices of Magic 1 and 2. Personal stories by magicians who work with Lazarus. It's been a joyous, creative endeavor that shares the community's magical lives with the world. Mary is available for consultation on self-publishing and can be reached at marywoodhouse@verizon.net. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mary.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Dina, for setting this up and hosting it. And it's fun to see new and familiar faces. And I just want to say we have a number of people who have contributed to the book. Leanne and Rob contributed, and Carol and Janice and Dana, and actually all of us who are here, I think, contributed to both books. Yeah, both books. So, and I'd just like to show the covers of both books because people who aren't here is Patricia and Pamela were the volunteers working with me to create the books, and Patricia is the artist who did these paintings. So they're actually full paintings on silk of florals that she does. It was incredibly talented and generous to grace our covers with the beautiful paintings, which are fantastic. So we had a lot of fun creating this. I think the most satisfying thing is, as you'll hear tonight, people who are on a spiritual path sharing their stories of, it's not always a life story, sometimes it's just a piece, a theme or something that happened. And we have such rich lives to share, and I love stories. I love stories from people who are on spiritual path and just regular people too. I mean, it's just a personal story that's vulnerable is just a beautiful, beautiful thing that human beings can create and share. And I really love that we got these out to the world. And I'm also very grateful to Jack Purcell, who wrote the foreword for both of them. I asked him and he said, yes, I will. And so, I sent him the stories kind of piecemeal, and he read them over time and then wrote his beautiful foreword. So that kind of support from like the main guy just really helped, I think, with people feeling good about, I think we all would have felt good about what we did anyway, but it's just kind of an added support, for all that. So with that, we have two readers tonight, Janice and Carol. And I guess I was going to go with Janice first. Is her story is the first one in the second book, and it's actually also the first one in the first book. And her story is A Clearing in the Woods. And as Janice was telling us, she lives in Manitoba, Winnipeg, Canada. And she is a talented person, as all our writers are. A writer, a cook, a gardener, a story lover, a storyteller. She's a counselor. She's a hypnotist, a hypnotherapist, and a mentor coach. And she has a website you can learn more about, janicerosen.com. She's also an aromatherapist who has her own line of aromatherapy products. It makes beautiful skin creams and essential and alchemical blends. Really beautiful. So Janice, thank you very much for being willing to share your story today, and take it away.
Okay, thank you. Um, yeah, my pleasure. I love this project, and uh, your leading both books has just been an awesome experience, Mary. So, okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to read, but I'm actually looking this way at my other computer, so I'm not going to be looking at you. But okay, a clearing in the woods. Many years ago. It's a perfect summer day in Manitoba. Sunny, hot, and a little breezy. A beautiful day to go for a drive and maybe stop at a park for a walk. After a while, I'm driving past a long stretch of wooded area and spot a patch off the highway with enough room for a couple of cars to pull in and park. There are no signs anywhere and nothing on the map to identify this place. I figure that it's probably provincial land. I don't know if I'm trespassing, but the woods beckon, and it looks like a nice place to go for a little walk. Right away upon entering, it feels lovely, quiet, and safe. My senses heighten. I don't know where I am going and have no intent in mind other than to be in nature for a little while and be able to find my way back to my car when I am done. I'm creating a trail as I go, following some invisible sense through this enchanted place. By and by, I come upon a small, delicate clearing in the woods, circled by trees. I stand at the edge, taking it in. Sprinkled here and there are wildflowers, some ferns and grasses, and a few good-sized rocks. At first, I don't see them. But as my eyes adjust, I see many monarch butterflies, too many to count. They sit on tree trunks, up in branches, on rocks and foliage, and seem to be clustering around a central rock. Very quietly, I approach to get a closer look. This rock is nearer to the other edge of the clearing. It is stout and has a smooth, flattish surface. There, upon the rock, is a single, quite large monarch lying on her back alone, but not alone. The others are gathered around nearby. It feels like the focus is on her. What have I stumbled upon? Is the butterfly in trouble? Does it need my help? Do I intervene? So far, my presence has not disturbed anything, though they are aware of me. I wonder if perhaps this butterfly has somehow flipped and can't turn over on its own. I decide to help by turning the butterfly over. I move as quietly as I can, and strangely enough, the multitude of monarchs stay put. Gently, gently, I reach out and turn her over onto her legs and tiptoe away. A moment later, I look back at the rock, and this singular butterfly is on its back again. It must be choosing to be that way. I retreat to watch and witness for a while. I hope that my clumsy attempt to help didn't do damage. From where I stand, I clearly see the lone one on her back, the group gathered around her, their wings ever so slightly vibrating together in sync. Here in the love and shelter of her community, in a small clearing in the woods, they have stopped their migration to honor this one as she transitions. I am aware of witnessing an incredibly beautiful, sacred moment and am deeply moved. There is much going on that I cannot perceive or know, but I feel a powerful sense of community and individuality coming together as one in a natural, rich, and deep way. It's been a transitional year for me. I've left a difficult second marriage with only what I came to it with. I'm renting a lovely little house near the river on a beautiful, quiet street lined with old elm trees. My children are living in another province with their father for a while. I became a mother at age 17 and a single parent with 2 babies 14 months apart by the time I was 19. I looked after my mother and my grandmother in their final stages before each passed, and I am alone now, with no one to take care of for the first time in my adult life. I have begun to explore my spirituality and metaphysics in new ways, and I have found my higher self. I don't yet know much about this new spiritual path I am on. I am just beginning to figure out my blockages and explore my relationship with my higher self. I have been a seeker all my life. As a child, I was a dreamer with an intense imagination. In my daydreams, I'd listen for enchantment, magic, mystery, hope, and the unseen. We moved from Edmonton to Winnipeg just before my 5th birthday. In my new bedroom at night, before falling asleep, I'd lay in bed and play, leaving my body and traveling out the bedroom door to the edge of the hallway and back over and over. A few months later, my bed was moved to a more permanent, different location in the room, and the traveling stopped. Location, location, location. In a small area in the backyard of our new house, my dad built a rock garden with various size rocks and pebblestone paths, a little stone pool with a small fountain, and a slab stone bench. No one went there but me. I'd regularly play in the paths and jump from rock to rock. Wildflowers, mostly daisies, began to grow here and there, popping up in the garden. One spring morning before school, I went and sat for a bit on the bench in the sun. It was a sad and anxious time for me, and the rock garden was my refuge. A few straggly daisies had popped up that week, and as was my habit, I pulled one and rubbed its petals over my cheeks and lips, breathing in its scent. When I returned home that day, my rock garden was filled with mature daisies lining the paths, growing everywhere. As I walked the stone paths, they swayed in the warm, gentle breeze, brushing against me. A full field of flowers in a small stone garden healed my sadness and soothed my soul. As a child, I would sit in the synagogue with my father during high holy days. There were long services, and most of the children played downstairs, looked after by the childminders, but I opted to stay. I felt connected to the rituals of the holy days spent with my father in his community in a sacred space and time. I'd lean against his shoulder, which was sheathed in his silk, white and blue tallis, winding the tassels rhythmically around my hands and fingers that lay along the edges of this prayer shawl. And I'd wait with anticipation, until it was time for the rabbi to blow the shofar, a curved horn traditionally made from the horn of a ram. Every year on the holy days, I'd wait to hear that awful, loud sound of the shofar calling for God. I'd listened, I'd listened for God, focusing every fiber of my being, all my attention on this holy sound, calling God to come. I wanted to be fully transported by this sound, not beautiful, requiring great effort to blow, a strong masculine sound, transported into the resonance of God. It was very satisfying. On this day in the woods, standing at the edge of the clearing filled with butterflies, I send my love and quietly exit, leaving the monarchs to their ritual. I look around for my way back, but I can't find the path that brought me to this clearing, the one I was so careful to remember so I could get back to my car. Where did it go? I don't know. But somehow I find my way back to the car, creating a new path as I go. I turn the car onto the highway and head back to the city to my new life. I have remembered this clearing in the woods, this butterfly in her community, this sacred moment many times over the years, at different times speaking to me in different ways. It speaks to me at times of transition and change. I am transitioning now into a new time in my life. Many things in me are dying and falling away. A new season begins, the final chapter of my last physical lifetime, the culmination and completion of this physical journey, begun long ago in Sirius, into Lemuria, to Atlantis and its 3 civilizations, into the modern world and now, participating in the conscious creation of a new world and new human being. I remember this beautiful monarch on the rock, fully in her vulnerability, on her back, in the presence of her community, gently, intentionally passing into the beyond. Now this memory speaks to me of community, both seen and unseen, of belonging, nurturing and being nourished, cherishing and being cherished, honoring and being honored. Recently, I received a new identity and image to go along with this new chapter. I see myself as a singular individual, fully belonging to myself, standing in my radiance and worth, knowing I deserve. A monarch of my reality, lovingly and magically creating the final chapter of my life and my physical journey, concluding what I came here to do, fulfilling my commitment and choice, a singular individual and part of something greater than myself, in an unfolding belonging, and a story rich and deep and fierce, enchanted, beautiful, and true. Thank you.
I always like to take a moment and just let that wash over you. Thank you, Janice. So powerful.
My pleasure.
Gave me chills many, many times, I would say. So we will we'll have discussion, after both stories are read. So again, thank you. That's just beautiful. Okay. So next we have our dear Carol Simarie. And Carol lives in Montreal, as she was saying, and is a retiree from the travel industry, which I would always love to hear a little bit more about. And is also has been a tarot reader and is an amazing crystal worker, which I would love to see a book sometime about your crystal work too, because that's amazing. And so let's see. So being a Sagittarius, she mostly worked in the travel industry while experiencing on different levels many lives within one, due to the variety of her interests and experience. Among them, the beauty of crystals led her to study gemology and subsequently work in a high-end jewelry store. Fascinated by the classical tarot decks and spirituality they convey, She offered courses and consultations for many years. She's extremely knowledgeable on the tarot. Born with the spirit of a knight, she supports causes that are related to animal welfare, the environment, and human rights. Photography is one of her hobbies, while writing is a result of her profound love of words, which expanded into the study of a few foreign languages. And she's contributed 2 stories to this book, and she contributed 2 stories to the other book, right, Carol? Yeah. So, and was one of the first ones to get her stories in, which was fantastic, really helped us. She writes on many subjects where spirituality is gently interwoven with stories about ancient or foreign cultures, the animal kingdom, or the fairy realm. She dreams of seeing her novels, awaiting publication, translated into English. That would be wonderful. So again, a multi-talented woman.
Yeah, so be it. Okay. So my story is called Inner Knowings. Reincarnation, karma, and déjà vu are words that, when heard or read for the first time, stirred a vague impression of inner knowledge that demanded attention. Same happened with the great work, Lemuria and Atlantis. Once brought to my consciousness, each of these concepts launched a new quest, my soul then speaking as loudly as a rooster announcing a new day. How can I remain asleep when a mysterious how or a why was playing hide and seek in the clouds of mystery? On the other hand, the what, the when, and the where were usually sensed more accurately. Looking back, I see how each experience in this current life has been a recapitulation of a knowledge I had integrated as if I was preparing for an exam. They offered the opportunity to remember who I am. Although I had experienced some awakenings before, my trip to St. Lucia in the early 70s remains memorable for other reasons than the beautiful pictures I took or my rescue from drowning during that day. It happened in a more subtle way. This island was offered to Canadian travelers for the first time, and since my then husband and I enjoyed visiting the West Indies, we planned to go. Having to choose from its small list of hotels, I could not explain to him the strong feeling that pressured me to select the Halcyon banner versus the most luxurious resorts of the time. I used logic as an argument, as this particular hotel chain, having a presence at each extremity of the island, spending night at both locations was giving us an ideal opportunity. On a deeper level, though, every fiber of my being was convinced, absolutely convinced, that staying at Halcyon would be like being home. This inner knowledge or feeling was so deep-rooted that it remained with me even after our return. Only decades later did I discover the source of such a mystery through a blending of sonorities, Halcyon being part of the Pleiades star cluster. I later joined certain mystical or metaphysical groups. One day, a meditation colleague invited me to a dowser reunion taking place in the country, where this master dowser owned a very large terrain, including part of a forest. When we entered the house, a tall man, diffusing a strange energy, was proposing his esoteric courses to a small group of people. As I was introduced to him, I realized he was the neighbor and teacher to another friend who feared him because he was very powerful in a scary way. He enjoyed some popularity, and as far as I knew, he was able to take control of the minds of others, at least hers. Right away when we met, I sensed his strength and the dark energy I was facing. However, to be polite, I asked a question about his course. His answer spurted out, "I would never accept you as a student. Then he walked away. Intrigued, I asked myself if he had recognized me from somewhere. Of course, we both did. I spent the whole afternoon in the presence of this particularly terrifying man, feeling attacked on the etheric level, ready to be swallowed by a dark cloud. We went to the woods for a dowsing experience. I constantly felt my every move being watched from a distance and incessantly had to envelop myself with a bubble of light to counteract the energies directed at me. A battle was going on, which I knew was also fought on some unseen level at another time and space. I'm sorry. This experience was so surreal that I often wondered if it had been a dream until I saw him again some years later, imbued with himself, selling crystals at a mineral show. Although some amethyst clusters and small geodes were displayed on the table, I would not have touched any of them. I can still thank him, though, since an unpleasant meeting him had been, it offered me insights. Of course, I'll never know the full truth about this experience, nor what really happened. My interpretation is that it lifted a veil on the Atlantis tragedy during its last days, especially the oppression, the fear, and the immense power detained in the wrong hands. I realized that the Atlanteans who use black magic are presently walking this earth as well. Fortunately, recognizing people from the past could lead to other discoveries. As a travel agent, I went on a few fam trips, all meant to know more about a certain destination or product. One was a cruise. Little did I know that karma and destiny were waiting for me to innocently embark for a destination far beyond any possible return. The moment it happened, I found it extremely strange to be bothered by two infinitely trivial facts. In the grand scope of the universe, what difference did it make that the steward serving lunch had the top of his hair misplaced? And then, why did it matter that it spoke with the passenger behind me in the lineup instead of me, while, to his defense, the circumstance for his friendly conversation had occurred naturally? Come on, Carol, you don't even know this guy, I constantly uttered as I tried to reason with myself, wondering why I cared so much about his hair and lack of attention. But nothing worked. The feeling stuck to me like glue for almost 24 hours. I saw this man the next day. I think it was his large smile that got me, or maybe the particular way he was standing. That he was Balinese might have helped, as I had already felt a strong attraction to this island and its culture. Who knows? It was only when I found myself in his arms that the explanation dawned on me, blurring the frontiers of time, actualizing the eternal present. A burning magma of passion erupted from the core of my being with an uncontrollable force, while a whirlwind was spiraling me back to a previous incarnation. A tsunami of tears followed as I realized I was in the presence of my soulmate. From then on, I thought, no mountain could be high enough to prevent me from climbing it. No wind could break my sail. No sea could drown my resolve. Love would conquer all. And so it was. Together with this special man, my heart embraced the soul of Indonesia. Forever will it harbor my profound love for this land and its people. The language, the music, the hearts, the temples, the sights, the nature, and the sunsets, anything and everything contributed to an experience that was, at times, surreal and sacred, like hearing the aboriginal music in the remote island of Biak during a sunrise stopover. I found myself engulfed in a very ancient remembrance, tears flowing from the unfathomable sensation of a first morning on earth, permeated by the presence of the goddess. As for Bali, the island of the gods, I guess it was natural, in a location somehow halfway between heaven and earth, to expect the magical to intermingle with the mystical. But then, who says or thinks that love stories always end like a fairy tale? In truth, after such a high, the low that follows becomes abysmal. In the name of love, I had invested myself so much in this relationship and its exotic culture that to eventually sail to another direction was inconceivable. And yet it happened. My soul, like the famed unsinkable Titanic, became a wrecked vessel meant to rust on the ocean floor forever, deprived of light, as well as any notion of a future. My body had become an empty shell, a zombie with dull eyes, activated solely to perform professional duties. I guess my higher self didn't give up searching for me, and I had found the perfect emissary for her rescue operation. She chose a Sunday to somehow lead me to an esoteric bookstore I had never visited. That day, Lazarus entered my life. He always appears to us as a spark of a sparkler on the 4th of July that grows before our mental eyes as big as us no more. It is, as well, an allegory of how the rest unfolded. Under his love and guidance, the small beam of light that transfixed the deep sea darkness grew brighter and brighter with time. I gradually left the sunken treasure chest of my past behind, slowly reclaiming pieces of myself one by one to rebuild and fortify self-worth and self-esteem until I finally rediscovered the pleasure of surfing the waves of life.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, Carol.
Welcome.
Again, just a moment to let it all kind of wash over us. Wonderful. So inspiring and interesting. The ups and downs and ins and outs. So now often what we like to do, because we do have these readings from time to time. It's one of our favorite parts of publishing a book is sharing our stories this way. And I'd just like to open it up if anybody has anything they'd like to say about or ask Carol or Janice or any of us.
It was a beautiful story, Carol. As you were reading it, I thought, oh, this is a love story. I've read it, but I, forgot about it. And I was hearing it for the first time again. And this is a love story. And then, and beautifully written. I love the way you use words. And then as you continued to read and as the story came to its conclusion, it says, yes, this is a love story of you with yourself and with your spirituality and bringing yourself back to life again. Just lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I can say the same of your story. It touches me very much, this allegory of the butterfly. Although it was real, it's not just an allegory. It's so beautiful. Yeah. And so loving too. There was so much love in this, for the all that is finally, for the small insect, so tiny and yet so powerful.
Yeah.
Yes. If anybody wants to unmute and just share their feelings or?
I would be happy to. You both are such an inspiration. And all of us who have been touched by Lazarus in so many ways, to be able to weave it all together and share these stories, it's so beautiful. You know, I think that each of us being able to share the story and the visuals that go along with it, just being able to hear you, it's so different than just sitting and reading in the book. This is an absolute treasure. Thank you
Yeah.
both so
Brilliant.
much. Mhm.
Brilliant. I love
That's
them.
why we love the read aloud so much.
Well, it's just such a treasure that we have with the Lazarus material to begin with.
Yeah.
And then to see how it's interwoven and how we're still taking this beautiful new world and creating something with it. Just and but then there's the weaving in of the endings and all the things. So it's just fascinating. Beautiful,
Mm.
beautiful. Thank you.
I love both of your stories so much, and you both are such brilliant writers, and how you incorporate so many stories within the story. It's like,
Yeah, that's true.
you know, a little bit of life here, a little bit of life here. It's just like, wow, I want to hear more. Get your stories in English, Carol, and keep writing, both of you. So I just enjoy them so much. The depth, the intrigue, you know, the nuance, the verbal delights of the words you choose on descriptions are just, they're awesome. And you both are so talented in that. So thank you. Thank you both for reading here tonight and always. I appreciate
Thank you very much. To articulate is very difficult for me to read in English. The mouth doesn't follow. It's so difficult.
You know, I can barely get English, so I think you're doing great.
Thank you for your presence. This friendship also that the participants have for us enough to attend this meeting. It's very touching.
Yes, it is. Angelina, did you want to say something?
Yes, I just feel so honored to be trusted with the vulnerability of both of you. Just marvelous stories. I'm really enjoying all of this. And thank you so much for inviting me and for everything you're sharing. It's really valuable.
Thank you.
Yeah, I find listening, so I find what I love is the inspiration. Like I'll think about these stories over the next couple of days, you know. And Carol, with yours, it'll be that inspiration to, you know, you call it inner knowings, but another time you call it that kind of intuition, you know. So the beauty of tuning into intuition, like I have to remember that sometimes, that is, you know, you have a sense in how you share the story of how real and valuable and how you listen to it, you know, a lot. You recognize when like it's right there. And I know I could have more of that in my life, you know. So I find that inspiring for me to say, okay, you know, it's happening now. You're getting something. You know, pay attention. I could do a little bit more of that. I know that. And Janice, in yours, there's that the beauty, the beauty of the weaving of the story and the connection of nature and that you know, that event kind of coming out of nowhere in a way, but that oneness with nature at this transition time, you know, the oneness of nature at your own transition time, a time of honoring and community and all, as somebody said, the metaphors that you find there, the metaphor of belonging, the metaphor of transitioning, and then the memories, there's so many memories that kind of flow out of that, you know, in your story. I know those will stick with me over the next couple of days, and the beauty of your words and the beauty of the images and the experience itself. I mean, I get goosebumps, you know, throughout both your stories. I would just like get goosebumps. So, thank you for that.
It was Canada night tonight, eh?
Oh,
Yeah.
what does that mean?
Me and Janice.
Oh, yes, Canada night. Yes, Canada night. I thought it was a
Lo-
holiday. I didn't understand. It's Canada night.
Location, location.
Mm. So is there anybody you'd like to say? So folks, I imagine not everybody here is someone who works with Lazarus. I don't know. Folks who don't, is it confusing? I mean, is there, relatable stories, even though you may not be so much into Lazarus, because you don't have to be. Everybody's got their own way and their own path and their own teachers. So I'm just wondering.
I'd like to just, if it's okay, is
Yeah.
to send more love to Sharon. I can see your grief and the hurt that you're going through, and I want you to know in your heart you're not alone. You're needed, you're valuable. Your spark, your essence, your magic in this world is valuable, and you will never be alone. So please, and I know everybody in this room, I know each of you enough to be able to say, if
Yeah.
you need somebody to just be there for you and remind you of that, please reach out. Just reach out. We're here for you, okay?
You can, I think you need to unmute, Sharon.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. It's unbelievably painful. I just can't tell you enough about that until it happens to you. Then you'll understand, and I'll be there to be with you. The good thing about it is it tells me and tells all of you